This is going to sound like so much hate, and I swear it's not. Welcome to the Warner Brothers podcast. I'm Kyle. I'm joined by my boy Tim. Tim, what's up, bro?
Same old. We're missing Keenan, but ready to talk ball regardless.
We are. Keenan is doing his duty as a as a work citizen, as an employee. Shouts to Diggs. Yeah, right. Yeah, salute to Keenan. Keenan's holding it down at Diggs while me and Tim do the podcast. We're doing picks for the first time, really, since the first quarter of the season, which seems kind of crazy. If you are a follower of the show, if you're a listener of a show, you will be familiar with this format. Tim and I are going to do a draft of the Week 10 games. Funny enough, Tim, the game that happened on Thursday for sure would have been either one of our number one picks, I'm sure. But it was a Thursday night game. And let me just, before we talk about this game, let me complain real quick. It turned out to be an amazing game, right? We were just talking just barely. Bengals Ravens was pretty much exactly the same game that we got earlier in the season from the Bengals and Ravens, right? So it ended up being a great game. This next Thursday, it's Thursday coming up, we get Commanders Eagles. Amazing game. That's 1-2 in the division, right? I don't love these games on Thursday night. Again, last Thursday night delivered. This coming Thursday night, I'm skeptical, and we'll talk about that. I mean, you got the Commanders coming off a physical Steelers game, I'm going to assume. So I don't love that matchup coming in, but that's my complaint. Let's talk about this past Thursday. What do you think? What was your takeaways from Ravens and Bengals?
I think that was potentially one of the games of the year. We had big plays. We had everything. There wasn't much like defensive prowess. There wasn't any real picks. There was the fumble, obviously, with Chase Brown. That kind of turned the momentum of the game. They were up 2 scores at that point, and the Ravens able to claw their way back with that. So that was a big turning point for them. But offensively, love to see it. For fantasy football, love to see it. Wonderful game. Watching Jamar Chase drop 50 on my team. I got him, of course. Gotta get my boy. Just a great game. I actually thought it was going to be a lower scoring game.
It seemed that way to begin.
It really did. At halftime,
14-7.
What, it was 14-7?
Yeah.
Yep. And I just thought it was going to, stick within that. Both teams under 30, but we started getting it right at the end. And I was actually worried. I had a few bets in there. I had Lamar Jackson's over on passing yards, and coming out of the first half, he had like 80 passing yards, and I was like, 100. I'm cooked. Yeah. I'm ruined. Like, this is going to suck. And then that Wallace touchdown really started to turn them, so they were able to start throwing a lot better. So
absolutely.
I think we got to see a lot, and it's really good to see people like Mark Andrews really bouncing back. The first month of the season, he was kind of slow, but that first Ravens-Bengals game completely re-involved him into the offense. So I love to see that he's now back in there as like a top target for them. So yeah, I just, it was such a good game, and they didn't even have T. Higgins out there. It makes you think like how better of a game we possibly could have got. We could have got that 41-38 game from earlier in the season again.
It's insane, man. And I mean, we said on our preseason pod, I said, if you could give me Sunday ticket with only the AFC North teams, like, I'd be good. Like, I don't even need the rest of the NFL. And we've got so many Ravens-Browns. We got one more Ravens-Browns matchup. We got Steelers-Bengals. The Steelers got their entire division now after this bye week they just had. We just got so many AFC North games. And it makes me wonder, like, if the Bengals do sneak in as a wild card, which now this loss is going to have big implications for that. If we got another Ravens-Bengals game in the first round or the second, like, can you imagine? But I also left. I mean, we've been doing the tiers list. We obviously talk football here every week. I think the Ravens are the biggest threat to the Chiefs. Preseason, I had the Ravens winning it all. And now I really, especially after this past game, granted it's Thursday night, granted it's division rival, but it was the same exact game just about that we got earlier from these two teams. regardless of record, I don't think there's much difference aside from the Derrick Henry factor between the Ravens and the Bengals. I don't think the Ravens can stop anybody, which really like that almost, I mean, we'll talk about it more, but that almost wants to give, like, makes me want to give the Bills the nod in the AFC if it came to the biggest threat against the Chiefs. So that was my biggest takeaway. Echo every single thing you said. Amazing game. Didn't seem that way at the end of the first half. Seemed like it was going to be a good game. I didn't anticipate this all-out shootout. You mentioned fantasy. I'm facing Ira, who's got Lamar Jackson as his QB, so he put up damn near 40 on me. That hurt. So yeah, same thing. I had Lamar in a few player prop parlays, and yeah, at the end of the first half, it did not look great. I'm the king of the teaser. I'm the king of the total teaser. So I think I had the total down to 42, 44. And you're right. At the end of the first half, at 14-7, it looked okay. But most of that first half, I was pretty worried. I can't even front. So, but amazing game, great game. Let me ask you this. So, I mentioned the Ravens and their defense. How do you feel about the Ravens going forward? And how do you feel about the Bengals playoff prospects going forward? Because I know that's a team really all three of us were big on to still right the ship given their schedule. Do you still feel the same?
I could see the Bengals running the table and at least getting into a wild card slot.
So no losses.
I think it's going to be
no losses from here on
exactly. It's going to be very difficult. We had talked last week, and I believe you and Keenan had both said that you didn't really feel like this was a must-win game. I didn't get to chime in on that, but I thought it totally was. Not because they have to go no losses from here on out, but because if they had won this game, they were one game behind the Ravens. Sure. And that's a much different picture than being 2 games back and now having to win out to make it there. Joe Burrow had said like a month ago that their only goal was to get to 10 wins. If they get to 10 wins, I don't even think they can now. Can they? I don't think so. Statistically, I don't think they have enough games.
Let's play this game right here. Let's go through the schedule. So they got on Sunday night at Chargers next Sunday. All right, that's going to be a tough game. Chargers, as we'll talk about here pretty soon, Chargers have not allowed 21 points. I expect that to let up against the Bengals, right? Bengals have been arguably the best offense in the league outside of, the Ravens and maybe the Commanders even. But, that's still maybe they get to 24 points. Chargers can play with them, right? That's a tough game. They get the Steelers after that. They get the Cowboys after that. They should win that game. We now know that Dak's probably out for the year. They get the Titans after that game, okay? Browns have always been a thorn in Joe Burrow's side. Okay, that's at home. Then they get the Broncos after. Who knows? We've seen the Bengals give up a game to teams they shouldn't. And then the Steelers they end with. And who knows what that'll look like for the Steelers if they'll need that game or not. So tough schedule, especially these next 2 or 3. That Cowboys look tougher in hindsight, that Cowboys game. But now that does not look as tough. But then again, I mean, we've just seen the Bengals drop some of these games to other teams. When you talk about good teams find a way to win. And it seems like the Bengals are finding a way to lose right now. They seem to be more in the mediocre zone. The record would indicate that. But as you added to the group chat, the still shot of, all the illegal hands to the face on the Ravens side. There was more than a few penalties that the refs seemed to miss at the end of this game here. So you could point to that if you're a Bengals fan. They absolutely should have had at least one more play from the one. But man, they got to play damn near perfect football. And I do think teams like the Chargers and the Steelers are just going to be tough matchups. Those are tough teams that can run the ball. They can be physical. The Bengals absolutely could win. Don't get me wrong, but they cannot have any sort of, mistakes against these teams. You can't find yourself down 10 against these teams. So we'll see.
I think we'll know in 4 games if they're going to be a playoff team or not. They're either going to lose to the Chargers or they're going to lose to the Steelers in that first game or the second game. Yeah. And, that just might be the nail in the coffin. So I think if they can win this next month, then they might carry that momentum and get them there. And then they're a scary team because they can realistically drop 30 on pretty much every single team. I don't doubt that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In terms of the Ravens, though, they gotta button some stuff up, man. their game plan was to stop Jamar Chase. Didn't work.
Not quite. Not quite.
It did not work. Broken plays. It's just the back end of their defense. They're just letting a lot of teams pass on them. So if they want to be a serious contender, they got to tighten that up for sure. I think they can get away with it because Lamar has showed us that they can win these games. High scoring games, they can still be in there and still score and win, do whatever it takes to win. Kind of similar to like the Chiefs. If you drop 30 on the Chiefs, you might still not win. They're probably going to get their chance to come down and give it a game-winning touchdown. So I kind of put the Ravens in that same boat with their defense playing how it is.
That's the only difference I'd give between the Ravens and a team like the Bengals, who just does not have a elite defense at all, is that the Ravens can at least turn you over once or twice, where the Bengals don't seem to get turnovers. That's the only difference. Mm-hmm. And that, in the case of the Ravens, like you said, if they were to get one turnover, that could be the difference, because you're not stopping Lamar and Derrick Henry 2 straight possessions more often than not, right? So,
right.
Yeah, that's the only difference I would really give them over the Bengals. The Bengals don't seem to turn you over as much. But we'll see. There's a lot of season left. If the Ravens can get their defense at least average, that would be enough to where you could say, oh, they could beat the Chiefs. But at this rate, where anybody can seemingly throw on the Ravens, then yeah, you'd give the Chiefs an advantage in that case. So we'll see.
Definitely.
We'll get to see more of these division games with the Ravens, with the Bengals, and like we always say, this is the best part of the NFL season. We can have all these talks, but eventually we get to see it all come to fruition. So without further ado, you want to get to this draft?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it. So away team gets first pick.
Away team gets the coin flip. All right.
Yeah.
Out of all these games, there's a couple solid ones. I think of the list, the best game to me, it could be much better, but it's got to be the Niners-Bucs game.
Interesting.
I want Mike Evans in this game. He's not going to play.
Right.
This would no doubt be game of the week not game of the week because of the Bengals-Ravens game, but number 2, if Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were a part of this football team. In my mind, it would be not even an argument here.
This would be a shootout.
But the thing with this is the Bucs have lost Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and they've still been playing really good football. Mm-hmm. Been able to move offense, almost won that game against the Chiefs, almost won the previous week against the Falcons. They've been in these games even without threats. Baker's just been playing lights out. I think by the end of the season, he could have an argument to be in the MVP case because he's kept this team almost winning these games. Obviously, they're not winning, but what do you expect from the man? He's throwing to Sterling Shepard. It's not 2017 Sterling Shepard. It's 2024 Sterling Shepard. It's a very different football player.
Getting it done.
And he's getting it done. They're literally in every single game, and they have had chances to win these football games, both of them. So I like this game a lot. I think this is not going to be a pretty football game for the Bucs just because the Niners are coming off the bye. CMC is supposedly healthy. They said if they had to guess, yeah, honestly, if they said that if they had to guess on a snap percentage, he's looking at about 55% of the snaps.
Makes sense.
I think 55% on CMC is enough to win this football game, without a doubt. He completely changes their offense. He's way more versatile than Jordan Mason is. So I'm definitely taking the Niners here, definitely coming off the bye, and I think that they're going to kind of show, unless CMC gets hurt in this game, they're going to show flashes of last year, a team that can drop 30 and play good defense. So I'm going to take it 31-17. I know I just talked up the Bucs, but I think coming off the bye, Shanahan's going to be a monster for this team.
Just to follow right up with that, I got in the same ballpark, 31-21 Niners. I agree with much of what you said. I was actually, the way you spoke about it, I thought you were going to go with a closer score. But, I mean, quietly, the Niners have not upper echelon, but above average defense. They rank pretty high all around in their defensive stats, right? And their defensive rankings. So between the Bucs being banged up, It wouldn't even matter if they had CMC in this game for me, honestly. Like, I'm super shocked that they brought him back. I really thought that he would be back closer to Thanksgiving. But the fact that they think he's ready to go, he says he's ready to go. And like you said, they're going to have him at 50 to 55% of the snaps. That's enough. The Bucs defense has not been great. That's like Ravens Bengals type shit when you're facing the Bucs. So Niners should get off. Like you said, Shanahan coming off of a bye. I do want to say, because you pointed out Baker, how well he's playing, right? How he's doing without his top receivers. And it looks like I believe the Bucs get a bye after this week, and then Mike Evans should be back after that. So even losing this game, they'll have an outside chance, but they should be able to make some sort of run at a wild card. So I just looked at Keenan's tier list. I made the argument, I forget who I was talking about behind Hurts. I think it was Cousins I was talking about, but Baker Mayfield. This is to me like the difference between a quarterback like Mayfield, like Kirk Cousins compared to Jalen Hurts. I don't think if you take Jalen Hurts' top two receivers away, he's going to make the other guys better. I don't think he's going to make a Sterling Shepard better the way Baker Mayfield is. So in that case, that's why I like a guy like Baker Mayfield, like Kirk Cousins, like Rodgers, even at his advanced age, over Hurts right now. Hurts is still a badass. Like, he can still get it done, but I don't think, and we talked about it last time, you take AJ Brown and Devontae away, I don't know if he looks the same, right? So we good on that game?
Yeah, I'm definitely good. I definitely agree with what you just said there about Hurts. We've seen it time and time again. Without AJ Brown, he's not the same quarterback. Baker, he's impressed me, man. From the beginning of the season, I put him at 5-12. I thought this team was going to get old. This team wasn't going to win football games. Baker's come out and just played lights out football. Like,
he's been great.
He's been unreal. He's been on another level. At one point, he was leading the league in touchdown passes, and it made sense. Their offense was rolling, and then they take this big hit to Godwin and Evans. And, it's one thing I did see about Evans was he did have like a minor setback. So, like, fingers crossed he's not pushed back any further.
Interesting. Yeah, good thing they have the bye. So at the most, maybe he'd be out that week 12 game.
I honestly think if they had played a game, like say they didn't have their bye this week, he could play. I think that they were just being super cautious with him and saying, hey, like, we don't care anyways, because if they were to put him on IR, the bye wouldn't count. Right. So then they'd have to keep him out an extra week. So they're like, we're giving you a month. Like, it's not even a question. You're getting a month off from this to heal up and get better, because they understand, like, they can make a run at this, but they're going to need him to do it. They can't risk it. So,
yeah, man. I mean, we'll see. I think it was after the Thanksgiving games last year, Thanksgiving week, where we kind of made predictions, because, Thanksgiving is kind of a benchmark in the NFL season. Maybe we'll do that again. We'll make predictions after Thanksgiving week and see where we end up. I'll have the tiers the week after that, but that would be very interesting because it just does get so chaotic down the stretch. There's teams that look like they're out of it, whether it's schedule wise, whether if you're in a case like the Bucs or even the Bengals where you're under 500, and multiple factors, injuries, schedule, and you can still make a run. You just never know what's going to happen. Like, all these teams that are in the hunt could just very well lose out. You know what I mean? Everyone's just still in the same place. You just never know when it comes to the stretch run of the NFL season. Moving on, though, I'm honestly shocked you did not pick this for the game of the week. To me, this is the game of the week. I know
which one you're talking about.
I'm positive. I know you do not like this team. But to me, the most intriguing to me is Steelers versus Commanders. Steelers on the road, going to the DMV to face the Commanders. We got Commanders play. Oh yeah, Commanders had the Giants last week, so they're not coming off a bye. Steelers are coming off a bye. You got Tomlin as an underdog. Let me get it out of the way here. I'm going to go with the Steelers here. I think this is Jaden Daniels' second true test, because the Bears defense was the true test. But November football, Mike Tomlin, the Steelers off a week of rest. That defense is going to be rearing to go. Jaden Daniels, what I would say about him, compared to most rookies, he's not making mistakes, which is what you could have said about Stroud last year. But you add the running component on top of that. he's just dangerous, man. That's why I really threw him in that argument, that hypothetical argument we had a couple days ago with Stafford and Goff. Like, who would you rather have here down the stretch? Because he is playing wise beyond his years. And then you add his running component to that. You add just his explosiveness to that with his deep ball. This is a fascinating game to me. And then again, you got Tomlin and the Steelers coming off a bye. Russell Wilson, who has turned into fucking like 2009 Matt Stafford all of a sudden with these deep balls. I'm going to roll with the Steelers. I just think they get the job done against Jaden Daniels. We kind of saw him wear down in that Bears game a couple weeks ago. Obviously, they got extremely lucky with the Hail Mary, but we saw them, kind of put the clamps on him in the second half. The fact that this team's got a week of rest, and the fact that, to me, what's the more important game for the Commanders, this Sunday or this Thursday against the Eagles? I could see them, especially now with the Eagles facing Cooper Rush. You can't take them lightly, and we'll talk about that game. But, that's a bit of an easier game for the Eagles. Let's assume they get out of there with a win. Who knows? Let's assume, though. I could see the Commanders, if they got down 10-13, maybe taking the gas off a little bit. So I'm going to roll with the Steelers 24-15. That's giving Russ a little too much credit there. Let's say 24-17. So we'll give it 7 points. That's still a lot. I could see it even being lower scoring than that and just ugly, but I'm going to go 24-17 Steelers. What's your opinion on this game, Tim?
I totally echo a lot of the stuff you've been saying. Off the bye, I totally think that this defense is going to be playing really well. But I think that this is a game where Jaden Daniels solidifies himself as the offensive rookie of the year. He's going to play lights out. The biggest thing to me is the Steelers could put him in hell. The Steelers have been preparing pretty much for this game on accident for the last 4 years, because they get to play Lamar Jackson twice a year, and now they get to play pretty much Lamar Jackson again. So they definitely have an upper hand when it comes to maybe QB spies or contain with the QB. So I think it's going to be a really close game, but I think the Commanders can get it done. I got it really, really close, 24-22. That's my thing. Another thing, I think that the Commanders' defense, I thought it was going to be good this year. The first month, it was not. Mm-hmm. It has slowly gotten better and better and better. Especially Marshawn Lattimore just got traded. Lattimore is not going to play this week. He's not making his debut. Interesting. But I still think that they can definitely limit the running game here. Maybe Pickens goes off, but I think the score is going to be right around these low 20s, maybe even in the teens. So I'm going to take the Commanders here. This is the one that I'm one of the least confident in, though, in this pick, just because the Steelers have literally been prepping for this game pretty much for the last 5 years, and they don't even know that they've been doing it.
And Tomlin as an underdog fares very well. It's not a huge travel game. It's not like they're going in the West Coast. It's not, they don't got far to go. It's a rookie quarterback. He's going to be, saying all the cliche things to that defense. Like, come on, you think this rookie's going to come in here and light us up, da-da-da. But as you say, let's say hypothetically, like you say, that Jaden Daniels does win this game. Man, I think he's got to be in the conversation, like in the shortlist conversation for MVP, because I don't care if it's home or away. You beat the Steelers, who in this case is, a top playoff team. I mean, that's more than a legit win, right? I mean, especially coming off that Bears game, then you follow up that Bears game with a win at the Giants, which you very well could have lost. I mean, man, that's exactly why I had them in the not quite true contenders tier, but the maybe contenders tier below that, because like you said, that defense really is coming along. I mean, I did not expect that type of performance against the Bears. If they can follow that up against a tough team like the Steelers, I mean, there's no reason why they couldn't hang in these December games and these January games, right? And I don't know, it's going to tell us a lot over these next 10 days. And if they lose both of these games to the Steelers and the Eagles, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But, man, they're good enough to where that would almost be surprising that they lose both of these games. So, craziness. Your pick.
Definitely. I think the next best game, I would have said Eagles-Cowboys, but Dak he's not here. So I'm going to go Lions-Texans here, Sunday Night Football.
Sure.
let me check something. I just want to make sure that if Nico is hinted at playing or not.
Sounds
They
like Nico's
activated him
playing.
off the IR.
Sounds like
Okay,
Nico's
that's
playing.
what I thought, but I had seen that he was not at practice, I think, on Friday,
Hmm.
which is slightly worrying. Okay, now. Da-da-da. All right, I think they're going to let him play. Why would they activate him if they didn't expect him to play? Um,
True that.
he completely changes this offense.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think we've seen with Stroud, he can't do it with just Tank Dell and Dalton Schultz against good teams, and the Lions are the definition of a great team. So with Nico, I think that changes my line. I definitely made this pick without him, so I'm going to give him a couple more points here. But I think the Lions still get it done. The Lions are going to prove that they're a Super Bowl contender and potentially the Super Bowl favorite. I got them winning here 31-24. Um, I just really like everything I've seen of the Lions. Defense, offense, run game, pass game, everything has just looked like a Super Bowl caliber team. So I think it keeps rolling.
I agree with you. So I think, like, I kept looking for ways to pick the Texans in this game because it seems like, all right, you're facing the Packers. You've had a few blowout wins here in the first half of the season. Like, you got to slip up at one point, right? And looking ahead, they got the Jags next week. It's not like this is really a trap game, right? This would be the game that you would gear up for, right?
Mm-hmm.
You very well, as we'll talk about soon, you might have Mac Jones that you're facing next week, right? It might not even be Trevor Lawrence. So you factor that in. They can really put all their eggs in this basket for this game. I don't see them, again, we'll talk about it more, but Trevor Lawrence or Mac Jones, I don't see the Jaguars winning by 10 points against the Lions, right? Like either way, it'd be a close game. So they kind of can load up here. We've talked about it. Texans have kind of been a polarizing team in this podcast. We've talked about it, man. They're so different without Nico Collins. Even with Nico Collins, they are still so Joe Mixon dependent. They don't spread it out the way they should. Like they should give Stroud way more control than they should. I have it a little more low scoring, actually. I got it 25-22, Lions by a field goal. I would not be surprised, though, Tim. Honestly, I would not be surprised if the Lions put it up on them. I would not be surprised to see a 34-21 or 34-24 game. Stroud is that good. Nico will make a difference. We'll see how much of a difference. He's had, about a month off now?
Yep, he went on IR, so he was off for 4 weeks automatically.
Exactly 4 weeks. So you know what? I mean, that might not even matter, honestly. It could be a rust type of thing. So I feel like I'm being generous with this 25-22, giving the Texans defense their props here with that score, actually, because, yeah, the Lions, especially with Jameson Williams coming back, he's on his drugs, guns, and gambling type shit, right? He's living the American dream over there. So welcome back to my fantasy teams, Jameson Williams. Glad to have you back. That alone, he's only been 2 weeks off. That could very well put the Lions over the top. So I'm not going to change my score. I'm going to stick with 25-22 and hope for a good game. But I very well could see a statement win. Again, another statement win from the Lions where they go up. Fuck it. I am going to change it. Let's go 37-22. There, how you like that? Change up on the fly. 37-22 Lions. I'm going to go with that.
If there's any team that's willing with a 10-point lead with 2 minutes left on the clock to just step on the throats of their opponent, it's the Lions. They did it with Dallas. They were trying to get every single lineman a damn touchdown. I could totally see that being the case where it is like a 10-point game, but then 2 minutes left. They're like, all right, let's just put it to them 38-24 now or whatever it is. One thing we didn't talk about with that is Zadarius Smith might play this weekend. They said that there's a chance he plays. I think he can be an impact player for them, no doubt.
Sure.
They need more pressure off the edge. I'm blanking on the name of their D tackle, but he's been playing great when they have pressure coming off the edge, and he can get not double teamed every single play. He's been playing lights out too. So I think he can be an impact player for them, and if he plays this weekend, I could totally see it being a 14-17 point game because of that defense just comes alive.
Last thing before we move on to my pick, that's one thing that really stuck out to me in the Packers game. even with Jordan Love's injury, was how physical their defensive line was. That is, we already knew the Lions were going to be a contender, but that's truly the mark of like a tough football team. Is if you can control the trenches, offensive and defensive line, which they seem to, like even without Aiden Hutchinson, and then like you said, now they get Zadarius Smith. Man, they check every box. Like we saw it last year with them, truly. But at the end of the day, it's still the Lions. Like I can't help but be impressed week in and week out of this team. Like they handle themselves like they've won a Super Bowl, which is extremely impressive. So, I mean, yeah, I don't want to say anything to curse them. Let's hope everything just stays intact for them down the stretch here. Hopefully Jameson Williams can just, stay off FanDuel, keep the guns out of his car, all that stuff. Maybe take an Uber. That would be my advice to Jameson Williams. My pick for this next game. This is a wild game. This could go any sort of direction. As I'm talking about it right now, I don't even know what final score I'm going to give, and that's Jets at Cardinals. Before the season, if we would have looked at this game, it still honestly would have been the same way I look at it now. It's two talented teams. Teams that Cardinals, I mean, kind of same thing that we talked about with the Commanders. The Cardinals defense is shown to be a little tougher than I expected these last couple of weeks, especially against the Bears. The Cardinals in general, you do not know what you're getting week to week. I mean, you could tell me that the Cardinals blow out the Jets by fucking 60 points. I'd believe it. You could tell me that the Cardinals win a 10-7 game Sunday against the Jets. I'd believe it. Vice versa, too. If you told me the Jets won a low-scoring game or if the Jets won a 34, any outcome of this matchup, I would believe. I'm actually, even though I picked this game, I'm going to defer to you because, again, I still don't know what direction I'm going to go. I want to hear your analysis of this game.
The way I look at this, the Cardinals defense definitely has been playing much better football, but they are definitely the weaker defense in this game. The Jets defense is still better than the Cardinals defense.
In theory.
And I think offensively, they're not similar, but they're close. It's weird because the Cardinals can run the ball. Kyler runs pretty well, and they still seem to score points without the involvement of Marvin Harrison. But the Jets seem to get really involved with all their playmakers, but they can't score more than 26 points, it seems. Like that just seems to be their cap. So I think offensively these teams are similar, but the Jets defense is a little bit better. So I'm going to pick it right there at that 25-point cap, and I got the Jets winning 25-22.
Hey, man, listen, the Jets now, they don't have Zerloin. Maybe they can get to 28 with this new kicker. Like that might be.
True.
That could be the difference.
He's been the thorn in their foot.
They could literally have like 6 or 7 wins if they would have got rid of him earlier, or if he just does his job and makes the kicks, Greg the leg. But so that's interesting what you said about the defense. Yes, in theory, the Jets should have the better defense. That defense has not showed up. If you would have asked all of us before the season, we would have said, okay, the Jets defensive unit's going to step up and maybe the offense is going to be a work in progress, especially with Aaron Rodgers coming back from injury. Their offense looks like the more dependent unit right now. Like I feel like from here on out, especially given, the last couple of weeks and the head coaching change, I feel like the offense is going to be pretty steady from here on out, barring some weather games. I think they're going to at least give you 22 to 30 points from here on out. Devontae and Aaron Rodgers look good. Garrett Anderson, or Garrett Wilson, Garrett Anderson, that's a kicker. Garrett Wilson, who, by the way, great catch, but I really don't think he was in bounds. Like I truly give up on what the fuck's a catch anymore. But
it's really like a semantics argument. Like,
really is. Yes,
his shin is down, but is his shin now a part of his leg? Because his leg's out.
Yeah, his whole knee
so like where do we draw the line?
Whole knee was out. His shin, technically made it down if you fucking zoom in on it. So like it was a great catch, don't get me wrong, but man, I truly don't know where to go with this game. Jets still don't have Hassan Reddick. I would assume he's back maybe next week or the week after. I don't really know. I mean, he's active, but he hasn't made it into the lineup. If the Jets can get a throwback 2023, 2022 performance from their defense, yeah, this team's live to go to the playoffs. Like if they can at least get that, because I do think this offense is going to continue to perform. I'm Mr. Jets hater on this podcast, but for whatever reason, I'm going to roll with the Jets this week. What'd you get? You said 25-22 Cards or Jets?
Jets.
We're both rolling with the Jets here. I'm going to go 20. I was going to go 24-22. I'll say 24-21 Jets. They could be the tougher team. You would have figured that defense shows up sooner or later. But then again, it almost seems like Kyler could have his way with his defense. Seems like he's the type of quarterback that could. They just don't seem that tough. But again, you don't know what the hell you're going to get from either team. I'm going to roll with the Jets, though, just for content's sake. I think it'll be cooler if we got – it's cool either way, but I think it'll be cooler if we got Aaron Rodgers in a playoff hunt. But if they lost by like 30, that would also be great content too. So
another thing to kind of speak on this is the Jets have, I believe, of their last the remaining schedule, 6 of their games are against below 500 teams. So they get the Seahawks, the Dolphins, the Jags, the Dolphins again, and the Colts. So if they're going to bank on any team or any game to like need to win, it's probably going to be this game right here against the division leading Arizona Cardinals.
This is the one.
So hopefully they come to play.
It's warm weather. Your offense is humming, and you really you need really 2 possessions. If you think your offense is that good, you really need 2 defensive stops in this game. That's really all you're asking for against Kyler and against the whole gang. But hey, Connor can run on them. They just haven't shown to be tough in between the trenches. We said that about the Lions. That's what would worry me if I'm a Jets fan. But again, the Jets have the personnel to get it done if they so want to. But we'll see with the Jets. Your go, though.
Alrighty. I guess you give me Monday Night Football, Dolphins versus Rams.
I like it.
I like this game. It's really a must-win game for both teams. The Rams need it just to be in their division, and the Dolphins need it to have any sort of shot at the playoffs. The Dolphins now have suffered 2 kind of crushing losses that they definitely could have won against the Cardinals, and then they could have won last week if it wasn't for a 61-yard field goal from Tyler Bass. I know in the group chat I was criticizing him. Yeah, because he misses an extra point and then he follows it up with a damn near record kick. So that was good to see. But I think the Rams offensively have been playing pretty good football. If Puka doesn't get ejected, I'm confident in them winning this football game. I got it 27-23. It all relies on Puka, because if Puka's not there, they're a different offense. It really is. So
I'm going the other way, 29-23 Dolphins. Man, I mean, it's perfect that you picked the Dolphins because I can kind of compare them to the Jets now. If Tua stays healthy, right, if he never gets concussed, especially what I've seen in the 2 games that he's back, man, they are a much tougher football team than the Jets. And if he was just healthy, I don't care if it's 4 wins, I don't care if it's 3 wins even. They would probably be second to the Bills right now and not even worrying about the Jets. We wouldn't even be talking about the Jets. The Dolphins without Tua is the only reason why we are still talking about the Jets, along with their schedule, like you said, week schedule coming up. But the Dolphins, every week that they've had Tua, whether it was early on or these last couple, they've impressed me. Their defense has shown up. They've shown resilience. Obviously, they can move the football with Tua, with Achane, with Tyreek and Waddle. So, I mean, they have the punchers of a puncher's chance to make the playoffs. Like, they really have no chance, right? They're a game behind the Jets, who you'd say has a better chance. You mentioned the Dolphins being a part of that below 500 schedule, but man, those to me are going to be playoff games. Dolphins will have something to play for, even if they don't, right? Even if they're mathematically out of it or it looks like they have no chance. I think they're going to go in and try to play spoiler against the Jets. Dolphins are kind of in a perfect spot because they do look competent enough when Tua's healthy to where you're not going to fire Mike McDaniel probably, right? So let's say they don't make the playoffs. Let's say they're a 7-win team. Let's say they're a 6-win team. They're going to have a high draft pick and be able to run it back with the same roster. with all their core guys. So they're kind of in a perfect spot to where you can go and make that run for the last wild card spot, or you're going to lose out or, lose the majority of your games, but still have a good roster and come back next year and be able to run it back again. So I like the Dolphins in this game. I mean, they played as well as you could, like you said, against the Bills, and to lose that game to Tyler Bass of all kickers, a 61-yard field goal that split it was the most perfect kick of his career from 61, and he had probably one of the worst extra points I'd seen earlier in the year, where he just shanked it all the way left. So yeah, I'm gonna roll with the Dolphins. I think I said 29-22, 29-23. We'll go
something like that. Yeah,
we'll go 29-23 Fins. And yeah, maybe they make a run at it here. We'll see. My pick?
Yes, sir.
That would have been my next pick. We'll go Bills Colts. This is a difficult game for me. Bills should win this game. Looks like it's at Indy.
Yep.
At Indy, so it's a dome. So you could say advantage Bills there, especially with how they've been playing. Look, it's as simple as this. If they get pressure on Flacco, they should win, especially with how they can run the ball. Similar to the Dolphins, similar to the Jets, this would be a kitchen sink game for me for the Colts, especially with them starting Flacco. You can kind of have more stability there. And the Bills have shown the ability to rush the passer. It's kind of 50-50. I really could see the Bills losing this game, even though they should be the favorite. They are the better team, but the Colts, again, will probably be playing for their football lives here. They got a tough schedule ahead before they get to an easy part. But man, if they can at least turn the Colts over once or twice, you'd give them the edge. And Josh Allen's just not turning the ball over. He's playing great football. But like we've said about other teams, the Colts defense is kind of coming along. It's kind of coming along here. It's performing better than I thought. Man, I'm gonna roll with the Bills, but man, I got this feeling in my chest that the Bills will just have a weird loss tomorrow. Feels like it. I'm not gonna pick it. I'm gonna go low scoring here. I'm gonna say 22-17 Bills, but I don't feel great about it. I do not feel great about it.
I totally understand the feeling. I definitely have it as a very close game. The one thing that the Bills are weaker against defensively is the run game, and the Colts are running the ball pretty well. Their offensive line makes some pretty nice holes for them. I think if they can get rolling and they can get running with Jonathan Taylor, it's going to make Flacco's life a whole lot easier, and that's going to keep this game close. Offensively from the Bills, I'm not worried at all. I think they're good enough. Keon Coleman's not in, and Amari Cooper was limited at practice, so that's kind of interesting. But even without those two, I would still be confident that the Bills can put up, 25 points. So I'm going to roll with the Bills, but I have a field goal game, 24-21. I think it all comes down to that run game for the Colts. If they can get running, they can kind of control this game. And that's the only way I think that they can win it, is if they run for 200 yards and a couple scores.
If it's both Cooper and Keon Coleman, I think I would roll with the Colts. I really do. Even though the Bills have managed that. Without Cooper, they played without Cooper early on the season, so they could manage that. I'm going to go with the fact that they at least have Amari Cooper and keep that at 22-17. But hypothetically, if they were to be without both, I might give edge Colts. So, we'll discuss Sunday, but I'm rolling with the Bills as well. What game you picking?
We're starting to get down to the bad games, or at least the lower scoring games here. This game, I think, is just going to be fun because we get to see Sam Darnold versus Mac Jones, baby. So I'm going to go with the Vikings versus Jags game here. I don't think I got to say much on this. The Jags defense is terrible. The Vikings offense is pretty good. So I think that the Vikings are going to score. We're going to get one of two games from Mac Jones tomorrow. It's not going to be an okay game. It's either going to be a good game and he's going to be questioned on why Trevor Lawrence is starting. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence should be starting, but if he comes in here and throws for 250, 2 touchdowns, doesn't throw a pick, and they're within a score, it's going to be confusing to the Jags fans. That's either going to happen or he is going to implode tomorrow or this Sunday, and he's going to go, 180 yards, 2 picks, a fumble. They don't score any points. Like that's more like what I think is going to happen. So I got the Vikings winning this game 27-14.
Wow.
I think it's going to be a statement win. I think this is the nail in the coffin for the Jags, and I think it's likely Peterson should get fired after this, but I think he probably should have been let go last week. The season's too far gone. I think he's about to lose the locker room. It's going to be really confusing for Jags fans.
Tim, I don't like it because a lot of the times we have the same scores or similar scores. I'm looking in the same ballpark of 24-14, 27-17. But I want to address Mac. I actually think Mac's going to play really well aside from the score. Like it might be a 10-point game, but that's more because of the Vikings offensive weapons. So the Jags, I mean, this is what we talked about anyway with the Jags, right? They got Doug Peterson as a coach, but they really do have talent all around, right? And Mac Jones, I look at him in the same vein as Daniel Jones, where they're not bad quarterbacks, but they're somewhere between mediocre and average, right? They can get it done. They can move the ball. You're not going to pick them to go to the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl, but I do think there's a good quarterback in Mac Jones somewhere. And the fact that you have actual weapons, Mac can throw a deep ball. Mac's at least accurate. And I think the fact that, he's had preseason reps, he's had training camp reps with the first team. And then especially this week with Trevor Lawrence out, he's got first team reps. I see him looking competent. I don't see him. He's never been, even despite his last season in New England, he's never been a guy where it's like, oh man, he's going to throw 4 picks. Right? Like he's had games where he throws 2 picks and they're the fucking ugliest picks you've seen in your life, but he's not like atrocious. Right? So, and then on his best day on top of that, he's accurate. So I think we're going to get a good showing from Mac Jones. I think you are going to get some of these, whether it's fair or not, you're going to get some of these, like, could he take Trevor Lawrence's job type thing, where I don't think that's necessarily warranted, but I do think you're going to see him move the ball. You're going to see him score. You're going to see people say, hey, what the hell, Trevor Lawrence? But ultimately, I do think the Vikings get it done. This is another one, though, where I wouldn't be surprised if me, you, and Keenan are talking on Wednesday. We're talking about, like, hey, what's good with the Vikings? You know what I mean? Which is kind of why I've never moved up the Vikings into the true contender spot. They've kind of stayed in the maybe contender spot just because there's that Sam Darnold factor. That defense is real. On top of that, the way they blitz, maybe they could kill Mac Jones. maybe it is a Mac Jones memorial, and it's grand opening, grand closing. He's injured in the first quarter, and we get whoever the hell their backup is. So I'm going to go with 27-17, best of both worlds. The Vikings get it done, and Mac Jones has a decent game. That's how I envision it. I'm going to go with, for this next game, I'm actually going to go with Cowboys-Eagles. This is still intriguing to me, even without Dak Prescott. And again, it looks like he's going to be out for the season. Cooper Rush in relief has always looked pretty good for Dak Prescott. Difference is in those years, in those games, they had a semblance of a run game. They had a healthy defense, maybe. It's an absolute shit show in Dallas. Cooper Rush looked okay at the end of that Atlanta game, but let's be real, that was garbage time. I think it'll be similar. I think it'll be similar to what I said about Mac Jones and the Jaguars. I think he'll move the ball. I think he'll look good enough to where certain people who don't like Dak Prescott will say, hey, why not Cooper Rush type of thing. But in the end, you'll see why it's not Cooper Rush sort of thing. So on top of that, with the Eagles being able to run the ball on the Dallas Cowboys, really being able to control the clock, I had a 27-17 for Vikings and Jags. I'm going to go 32-17 for Eagles Cowboys.
Very interesting. You said that you could see it being like Mac Jones. I could totally see it. I picked the Jaguars to score 14. I got the Cowboys scoring 16. Very close, very similar. I actually have a very close score to you. I think that the Eagles are just going to overpower them offensively and defensively in this game. And I think we're going to see a lot of 3-and-outs, 5 or 6 3-and-outs from the Cowboys, and it's just going to add up. So I think eventually the Eagles are going to run away with this game. I got a 34-16.
Yes. And that's the thing, quiet is kept. Eagles defense has looked good lately. They're starting to get it
It has.
together.
Since the bye, they've been playing very well.
Yeah. I mean, I said it before. I'll say it again. Since Nick Sirianni turned to Heisenberg, I mean, their season's just kind of changed. I mean, now he will try to lose you a game like last week. Like he'll find a way to be up 22 and still make it questionable. But I mean, unless the Cowboys really come out with the effort of the season, that's the only way they'll win this game is if they get it on both ends of the ball. If they somehow get a ball control type game, which they can't really do because they don't have a semblance of a running game. I don't know. There's a world where it's a good game, but I really don't see it. I agree with you. I think the Eagles run away with it. Your pick.
Damn, these are all tough, man. I think I'm gonna go with my team here, I guess, and go with the Giants Panthers game. This is potentially worst game of the week.
That's a shock.
But I do want to talk about this game because the Giants better win this game. If they don't win this game, Dable's gone. Like that's no doubt. He is gone. That's my take. This is kind of like I had sent you that post a little while ago. We get Giants Panthers in Germany. MGK's playing the halftime show, and they're saying that this is like punishment for World War II, and like just such a funny post. Just really the worst of America right here coming to Germany. I don't think I really gotta explain it, but I got the Giants winning here 21-13. I think their offense is much better than the Panthers, and I think their defense can play pretty well against bad teams. So I'm gonna take it there, 21-13. That doesn't even cover the spread, which is hilarious.
What is the spread? Is it 7.5?
I think it's 7.5. Yeah. So I guess they do cover
so
that.
They would cover it. I mean, actually, let me look.
By half.
Let me get that squared away before we talk because
the Panthers are technically the home team here.
For some reason.
But it is Bryce Young playing and
6.5. So they would cover 6.5. The Giants.
All right.
Which is I guess that's proper. So. Yeah, man, 2 questions here. Like one, I thought for sure Giants Panthers would be the last game picked. So I'm extremely shocked that it was picked mid-round, especially over some of the other games. So that was shocking in itself. But this is the most interesting tidbit of this game to me. I want to know who thought like, all right, let's throw over Giants and Panthers. Like that was already questionable before the season. Matter of fact, last year's Germany game was Patriots Colts, which I guess was a little better, even though the Patriots were, obviously a lottery team. But I want to know who thought like, all right, we got Giants Panthers. Who should we have for halftime? Machine Gun Kelly. Like who was thinking like what? Like who needs a halftime show? Because I don't think they do that in London. So who was really thinking like, yes, the Germans will love MGK. Maybe they will. I mean, I don't know. But I just want to know the thought process behind Giants Panthers, and then on top of that, we need a halftime show. It's got to be MGK. Like I got to know what the thought process was behind that. The game itself, the Giants should win. I think the Giants will win. Bryce Young has looked better. Thing is with this game is the Giants really do have a good defense, above average defense. And again, Daniel Jones really isn't that bad. And I would put Bryce Young in the mediocre class with him and Mac Jones, where they're not terrible, but they're maybe not the greatest quarterback. So I'd have him in the same class. There is a world, of course, where the Panthers win this game, but I do think pound for pound overall that the Giants are the better team. Let me give it a score that's not close to yours. Let's say 30-17. 13-point win for the Giants. They get it done.
Love it. I will say the only reason I picked this game is because every game remaining is like a gooder team versus a kind of bad team, and I got to pick my Giants over all those good teams. So
that's the first.
That's the only reason I took it.
That's the first time I've heard gooder used in a while.
I definitely regret saying it. As it rolled off the tongue, I was like, All right, give me that one
You
back,
just gotta
please.
roll with it after that. Like once it's, you
Yeah.
just gotta go with it. All right. There's two games that really stick out to me. Um, to use your term, it's gooder teams versus less gooder teams here. So, all right, the two games that stick out, I'll just go with that. I'll go Chiefs, Broncos. That's a divisional game. It's at Arrowhead. I mean, man, look, right? They got DeAndre now, so it looks really good, especially against the Buccaneers last week. Like that all looked great. The Broncos, we never would have guessed this. They have a legit defense. We know these divisional games are like playoff games. Unlike the Cowboys and Eagles, the Broncos really could mess with the Chiefs a little bit. They got the coach to do it. They've got Bo Nix, who's he's not an above average quarterback, but he can scramble. He can complete passes bare minimum. They could control the clock in this game. I think everybody will be betting the Chiefs to cover. But hey, Mahomes does not do good. He does not do well as a big favorite, and I believe it's 9.5 in this game. Let me double check just to make sure.
In games this year where Mahomes was a 7-point
7.5.
favorite, he doesn't cover. They haven't covered once. If he's ever been 7 points and above, they haven't covered.
It's crazy to say this. The Broncos really could win this game. I wouldn't. I would be shocked in Arrowhead if this was at Broncos. Maybe I feel a little bit different. I do think it's going to be a competitive game. I do think it's going to be low scoring. Let's go with 23-17 Chiefs. I think it'll be a good showing. Hopefully, this is one of the more entertaining games that we weren't expecting to be entertaining.
I hope the Broncos win this game. I'm starting to get these visions from last year when the Eagles were 10-1 and everybody was saying that they were like a good team, but there were still people that thought they were frauds. We're kind of getting that with the Chiefs where they're just winning a lot of games, one score, right down to the wire in a lot of these games. I don't necessarily think they're frauds because their quarterback is potentially the greatest quarterback of all time. So I'm going to keep putting them in this contender tier and, the three-peat tier. I think the Broncos can beat the Chiefs, but not in this game. They can beat them the next time they play them this season.
If it was at home, I'd feel different.
If they're at Mile High, sure, they can totally win that game. But if they're going into Arrowhead, rookie QB against Arrowhead, that ain't going to happen. Pretty sure we saw it last year when the Bears went there, and they lost, 41-10. It was a stomping. And the Chiefs, similar, they didn't look like an amazing team at that point, but they dropped 40-1 on them. So I'm going to say that this game is close up until 3 or 4 minutes in the fourth where the Chiefs get a go-ahead touchdown, and it just kind of puts it into that 10-point game. So I got it 23-13, but I think it's going to be really close all game long. Defense versus defense.
I just want to respond to what you said. We mentioned, I think it was last week when we mentioned that the Texans, at that point, I think they only had a +9 point differential against their opponents, right? And I believe, I don't know if it was before or after this Buccaneers game, but the Chiefs were about 50. So like you said, playing a lot of one-score games, a lot of 10-point games. Obviously, yet to have a loss here. This is a game, like if they, granted it's at home, granted they're 7.5-point favorite. If they were to beat the Broncos by double digits, let's say 14 points, let's say 10 points, let's say it's a commanding win for the Chiefs, that would change my opinion on them a little bit, because I do think I don't think this is a juggernaut despite their record. I do think they're gettable in the playoffs for sure. But this is, especially with how they looked, especially how the offense looked against the Bucs on Monday night. If they were, and that's another thing, they're coming off 6 days rest instead of 7, so maybe that's advantage of Broncos. But if they were to blow out the Broncos here, maybe that changes my opinion on the Chiefs a little bit. But same thing, if the Broncos come out and hang with them in a 23-17 type of game, I agree with you. I think that depending on what game exactly Denver and Chiefs is next, if it's week 18, that might change my mind. But, if they got them at, week 14, week 16, that could be a game where, I pick Denver. You know what I mean? And they could be a foil to the Chiefs. They seem to be a tough team. So we'll see. This game should tell us a lot.
I don't think they win like the Ravens did last week, 41-10, but it would be nice to see them win by 2 scores.
Hmm.
Um, of these last 3 games, I think the best one is Titans Chargers. At
Shocking
least,
again.
really, were
Yeah.
you thinking I was going Falcons Saints?
Maybe.
Okay. Uh,
Maybe.
I think it is tough because, like I said, every game here has a bad team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Chargers are that team where, if all things go right, they're going to score like 21 to 26 points. And I think that's plenty to win this week against the Titans. Titans might be without L'Jarius Sneed. He was limited all week. Actually, I think he missed practice a couple times this week. If he doesn't play, I have a lot more faith in the Chargers offense. So I'm going to take it 26-19 Chargers. The Titans can't win with Mason Rudolph or Will Levis. Doesn't matter. They just can't really win football games unless they're playing the Patriots. So
Cheap shot right there. Cheap shot. It does look like they're having. It looks like Levis is coming back this game, right?
I think that's what the word is. And I don't have a lot of confidence in Will Levis. He literally has won them football games and then in the last 2 minutes just gave the other team the win. Like, it's happened multiple times this year. So
Hey man, listen, we haven't seen Will Levis in a couple weeks. He's due for another meme. He's due for another.
he's bulking up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's like, you guys thought it was good in weeks 1 through 4. Wait till you see this one against a good defense at that. Like, he might throw the worst pick six we've ever seen, if possible. That being said, I got it 28-13 Chargers. I'm not too worried about this game at all. Like you said, whether it's Mason Rudolph or Will Levis, the only difference is you'll probably get less turnovers with Mason Rudolph. He actually has weirdly looked okay in these games. Levis is definitely going to take more shots. I alluded to it earlier. The Chargers have not allowed 21 points this season. I do not see the Titans breaking that. Titans defense has looked good. They've got quiet. I think they have the least yards allowed per game in the league going into this week. I could be wrong about that. So, I mean, hey, it's got the recipe for a lower scoring game like you have. Herbert's played really well these last couple of weeks. More deep balls, more explosive plays. I expect that to be the case. And if we get 2 to 3, maybe even 1, maybe that's all it takes for Levis. If we even get 1 turnover, if it's a pick six, that could be enough for it to really be the difference. But I'm going to go with a 2-touchdown game, 28-13 for the Chargers. You're right. I did think you were going Saints, Falcons. This game is intriguing to me because, hey, Tim Stradamus struck again, man. You called Dennis Allen getting fired midseason. You almost had it to the week. He did, in fact, get fired. So it's at Saints. Falcons don't have a great defense. Saints don't have a great defense. Saints will have Derek Carr and Kamara like last week. Do they have receiver help this week? They will not have Olave, clearly.
Lave's out. Bub Means is on IR. I don't know who they're throwing it to.
Normally this would be the perfect trap game to pick the Saints with what we just said. The new coach, new coaches seem to come in and at least cover, if not outright win a lot of the time, it seems like, especially the last 4 years. That's to the mind's eye and that's to statistics, right? Like it seems to prove well each time. And the Falcons just have a bad defense. Like they have no toughness on that defense, which has allowed us for some exciting games. But the Falcons being that much more healthy than the Saints, maybe it's a close game, but I can't get all the way there with the Saints to win. I would like to pick the Saints because that would be cool. That would be it would give us some chaos here in the NFC playoff picture as it pertains to the Falcons, but I just cannot get all the way there. So I'm going to say 31-24, heartbreaking loss. Saints go to, tie the game up, and maybe Carr throws a pick there at the end. So 31-24, Atlanta Falcons.
Could totally see that. I really wanted to pick the Saints to win this game.
Likewise.
New coach. Maybe they come in, they play inspired. Maybe it's just a defensive game where they only have to score 15 points to win it. I just don't see where they're going to get production in the offense when all they have to do is stop Alvin Kamara. I was looking at lines.
In Big Taysom Hill.
Alvin Kamara, his rushing and receiving combined yards. Do you know what it is this weekend? This blew my mind.
Like his over-under for combined yards?
Yeah, over-under. Yep.
Blew your mind. So that means it's probably a high total. Let's say 130.
Okay, 110, but that's still really, really high.
Yeah.
You know, his rushing line is set at 70. 100-plus yards he is their offense, if that's the case. I think it's going to be a lot of checkdowns.
Against that Falcons team, he could smash that, essentially.
He totally could, and he might, because they might just give him the ball 38 times again. But they showed us last week that doing that, they still didn't win. Yeah. So I think the Falcons, their defense hasn't been playing great, but their offense has been playing, well enough to win games against some good teams. So I'm going to take it as a close game, but I'm taking the Falcons 20-16.
Low scoring.
I just could not. Yeah, I could not get to the Saints win here. I think if anybody comes out and plays inspired, it's going to be the defense, and that's what's going to happen. They're just going to play a lower scoring game.
True that. Well, that leaves one game. That's the Patriots and the Bears. Let me see. I don't even know if this is sad. Like, I would know my team's schedule right and left. I did not know if this was at Soldier Field or Gillette. It's at Soldier Field. So it's Pats going to the Bears. The only thing that changes for me, Tim, is how much the Bears win by. The Pats, Jets win aside, this Pats team is not good at all. They're very disorganized. They're unhealthy on defense on top of that. The Bears, I think they're kind of a joke of a team too. Like, I'm completely off. As I said when we did Keenan's QB tiers the other day, I'm completely off the Eberflus train. Like, I gave him his respect the last 2 years because it would seem like, first 4 to 6 weeks they start slow, then they kind of build up, and they at least play hard for him. Like that, you can at least say that. Like, they play hard for their coach. His play calling is just so atrocious. I can't even get on board with them as a playoff team down the stretch here. That being said, they still should hammer the Pats. They themselves had a streak, I believe, going back to last December, of holding teams below 21 points. That got smashed by the Cardinals last week. I do not see the Pats getting to 21 in this game. We'll say I always got so many games that go between 22, 23, and 24. But we're going to say, we'll say 26 to 26-15 Bears over the Pats. And that's being generous.
I am not rolling with the Bears this week. I have been almost successful this year picking the Patriots as upsets. The only one I've missed so far was against the Jets, like week 3 or whatever. They got blown out.
Give me the case. I gotta hear
this. This is Drake May versus Caleb Williams, baby. This is number
1 versus
number 2 versus number 3 versus number 1, and I think I like, apart from one game with Caleb, I like what I've seen from Drake May. Mm-hmm. I feel like when they get in the red zone, they score. They score touchdowns. It's true. They're pretty efficient when they get into the red zone. So if they get in, I think the Patriots defense is good enough to hold them. I think the Bears have an issue with DJ Moore. I don't think he wanted them to move on from Justin Fields, and I think he's taking that to heart this year. I think he's bailing on plays. We saw a play where he walked off, and it did kind of look like he limped off. But if he didn't limp off, that's unexcusable, because you could at least get back in there and block for your player. You might not be able to catch the ball because you went out of bounds, but you can get back in there and make an impact. It all comes down to Caleb versus Drake, man, and I'm going to take Drake here. I got it pretty low scoring, 17-16. That, I feel like, is the game that the Patriots can win. And I think we've seen enough from the Patriots defense and enough from the Bears offense to see if both these things come together, it could be a 16-point game. Like last week, the Cardinals hold them to 9. The Commanders held them to 15 or whatever. I don't remember the exact score in that game. I think the Patriots can do it. and I think it's going to be really close.
Well, that's very generous. I do not have the same faith in the Pats defense, which I thought was going to be the strength of their team, Drake May or not, going into the season. I could get on board with what you were saying if I didn't think the Bears defense was elite. So I think they will give Drake May trouble. He has looked really good these first few weeks. He's also looked like a rookie here and there. And if there was a defense to make him look like a rookie, especially within his first 3 or 4 starts, it would be the Bears defense. So I do think he'll have his moments. And maybe there's even moments in this game where the Pats look competitive. But I do think overall the Bears get it done and make Drake May. Maybe he has his worst game as a starter. I'll ask you this. That's it for the games. That was actually pretty fun. Always love doing the draft format. Let me ask you this. If you had one wager, one thing you're really like, you got your eye on for tomorrow that you're for sure going to put in your little FanDuel account, like what's one that you're for sure going to play that you feel most confident in right now?
I don't know the spread on the Niners game. Definitely taking money line. I think the Niners off the bye are going to be 6.5.
Yeah.
Hell, I might even take that. I might take the 6.5 there. I think a touchdown is plenty for them to win by. I think they can do that pretty easily. So I would say coming off the bye, 49ers, confident. You could even sprinkle in, I'm pretty sure he's minus 225, but CMC anytime touchdown scorer, even at 55% of snaps, I could totally see that being a lock. So
my lock would be the Chargers. I'll tell you this. Pair the Chargers money line, with the Chargers Titans under. So you get the Chargers favored by 7.5. Money line's minus 370. So if you go their money line and under 38.5, which I actually have them going over in the game that I picked, but you can't go wrong really with the Chargers under. With they've been holding defenses again or offenses under 21 points. If you pair their money line with their under, you get plus 136. You can even all under that if you want to go to, let's say 44.5. Let's tease that up to 44.5, the total. And that will get you to, one second here, minus 145, which isn't great, but that isn't bad at all. I'm the king of the teaser, so I could probably give y'all something else. But even if you want to pair an all under, okay, let's do this. Let's do all under Chargers and then go with the Lions money line. That would get you, let's see. Got me going in the lab here live on screen. So if you went 44.5 for the Chargers and the Titans, under with the Detroit Lions money line, that will get you to plus 114. So that would be my recommendation. Play the under if you want. 38.5 is pretty low. And I do think the Chargers offense has been a little more explosive. So if you went 44.5, if you want to even be safe and go 45.5, pair that with the Detroit Lions money line. Texans' only way they're really going to win is if they outright outplay the Lions. Again, me and you talked about it. I don't really see that happening. If the Lions had another divisional game, if they had another showdown type matchup after this game, then you got me. But it's hard for me to see them really coughing up this game to the Texans. Stroud would have to have an MVP type performance, and the Lions would just have to have a joke of a game on defense. So I don't see it. Yes, it's at Houston, but that's also a dome, which plays in the Lions' favor for sure. So yeah, pair that 44.5 all under for the Chargers. Pair that with the Lions money line. That would be the wager I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Tim, any thoughts before we depart here?
Nothing on my mind.
I think we have a weird weekend of football ahead of us. A weird Sunday of football. Good Monday night game, but I do think when we reconvene on Wednesday that we're going to have, if not weird results, just weird happenings in general, whether it's like player performances, much like this past Thursday night. Like, this is really the part of the year where shit gets weird. So, Tim, thank you again. This is a fun podcast. We will be back, the three of us, Keenan, myself, and Tim, discussing all the Week 10 action. semi-previewing the Week 11 action, for sure the Thursday night game, which we got a great one with Commanders and Eagles. Tim, enjoy the Machine Gun Kelly show on Sunday morning. I cannot wait for it. It'll be amazing. Warner Brothers Podcast. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. We'll be back. Thanks for the support. Peace, y'all.